We have had so much fun this week talking about Raymond Scott and getting to dispel some rumors and tie some threads together. I think the fun one for me was remembering or being reminded that John Williams was the drummer of the Raymond Scott Quintet. So, you know, there's always some kind of gems to uncover with all of these people that we have these conversations about. There's always something surprising and cool.
Well, I had mentioned it as a question during the last conversation because I'm almost positive it was in the documentary.
It had to have been.
Because that was my primary source of information at the time. And we found out that is definitely true. Yeah,
so thanks to everyone in the group for participating in that fun investigation this week on Raymond Scott. And, we had the pleasure of Jeff Winter joining us, the archivist for Raymond Scott, to help us get everything straight.
He's got all kinds of things going on. He's produced almost all of the reissues of his work on Basta, and he's co-produced the documentary. And
that was a real honor to have him sharing all his knowledge with us this week.
So he's almost solely responsible for a lot of, what we have to consume.
He's the reason that we have all this stuff, all the reissues and all the new information and the documentary and stuff like that. So very, very, very grateful for his contributions to our Cosmic Tape Music Club this week.
Absolutely.
Any lingering questions anybody has, he's, feel free to reach out on his post or just tag him if there's anything that came up for you in your research this week or anything that you're like, when's this getting reissued? He would know. So this week we are turning the page, and we may circle back around to Raymond Scott again because there is so much to talk about. We could probably do it for a whole year.
And
but we're doing it week by week for now. So week by week for now, and this week we are covering Delia Derbyshire, the prolific. We've kind of, she's definitely been posted about in the group since our inception a few months ago.
Right.
But
quite a few times. Tons of people have posted about her.
It feels like, similar to Raymond Scott, upon her passing, there was a treasure trove of tapes and things to be archived and explored, and she had, she's obviously having her resurgence now.
Similar to Joe Meek as well.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting that, when, I guess it's almost traditional, if you're a cosmic tape music artist, you're going to leave a little bin of tapes. I guess
teach us seems to be the
I guess I should
common.
start putting mine together now.
We need to get a teach us.
Yeah, we need
Delia famously
like
had hers in cereal boxes, which I heard someone say was so fitting because her most famous piece, the Doctor Who theme, of course, for anyone who doesn't know, or even if you do, it's just fun to talk about, came to people through their TVs, while they're, at their dinner tables or breakfast tables, Saturday mornings, that sort of thing. So for her to have that tucked away in the cereal boxes seemed appropriate.
Also, I appreciate her spirit for recycling.
Might as well reuse a cereal box instead of going to the container store. Also it was, we discovered in some of our preliminary research, obviously we are going to all discover Delia Derbyshire together this week, either just enjoying things we already knew, sharing videos, sharing songs, sharing reissues, showing your personal collection. But we obviously, have done some preliminary research. And it was noted that, when she left the BBC Radiophonic Workshop, she just never unpacked. She brought all of her tapes and everything she had worked on and just it never unpacked. So that's why there was such a trove of
when she moved as far north as she could possibly go in England.
She moved to the northest part of England.
And I had mentioned this earlier. It almost seemed like when she left the BBC Radiophonic Workshop, it was almost as if her life was over. You know, she left in such an intense way, and literally didn't unpack. And, you know, the stories of her life post, you know, her leaving, you know, were, you know...
Yeah, she didn't make music.
She was reclusive. Hardly anybody saw or heard from her. You know, like, she was just like...
She did apparently make a lot of phone calls. There was an anecdote from a documentary on the BBC that we had not heard before called The Sculptress of Sound, where Mark Ayres was talking about... Mark Ayres was... he's the most, I guess, active in...
He's the archivist.
Archival work.
For the radiophonic... For BBC, or was. I don't know if he still is, but...
So he said that she would call him and talk, you know, for hours about things, and he would, you know, be lost for a while, not knowing what she was talking about, and then she would just hang up, and he wouldn't know, like, when it was going to end. And then, you know, months would go by, and then she would pick up the phone and just start where she left off. So apparently she kept notes by the phone, so anyone she talked to, she actually was notating what they talked about and where she was going to pick up. So when she called them again, she would just pick right up where she left off.
Which means, like, she didn't want to, like, revisit, you know, anything she had talked about before. She had no interest in that. It was also evidence in when the Doctor Who soundtrack got revised.
The theme song, yeah.
Later.
They did it a few times, yeah.
They would, you know, every time a new producer would get on the project, they'd want to extend the song. At one point, they did a completely new one using the Delaware EMS, you know, monstrous synth, just to see if they could do it, and she hated that. Like, basically, all of the revisions she absolutely hated. Like, she would have never, you know, done any revisions if it was up to her. So, you know, that spirit of, like, kind of never looking back or never going back or never talking about anything again, you know,
she was very I think, intentional. So, you know, from my understanding, she spent, you know, a lot of time thinking about the work she was going to create and mapping it out so that when she made it, it was not to be messed with, you know. It was complete and not to be revisited, not to be tweaked, you know. I think as artists we feel, you know, you can get into this mode of like, when do I stop? When is this actually finished? And one of her contemporaries mentioned that she had that gift of knowing when something was finished. But I think it's because of the amount of planning that she would do ahead of time. You know, she would think about it, she would imagine it, she would map it out, she would do these crazy, you know, mathematical calculations.
Speaking of math, like many people would dare to say that she was more of a mathematician than she was a musician. Now, you know, obviously... Let
me confirm that what her degree was.
It was mathematics and music.
And music?
Yeah,
okay.
she double majored or something like that.
Was.
But what's interesting about that concept is that it's very similar to a mathematician. You know, when you're done with the equation and you've decided on your final answer, it's done. You know, you turn that answer in, it's either right or wrong, and that's it. It's very finite math. It's one of the reasons why I was terrible at it. Because I'm like, my mind kind of goes off in these creative, like, you know, I'm really into editing and revisions and consuming things over and over again, you know, so that's definitely not how I think, you know, but like, I found that interesting that like, even, you know, her, you know, way of going about life and interacting with others seemed to follow this very like mathematician's, style.
Yeah, that was part of her unique, you know, attributes, her unique talent. That, you know, it just seems like she had a mind that was very unique and kind of unparalleled. I guess unparalleled would be the right word. Unmatched. So she got her degree. So, you know, she's a real trailblazer. So we'll do like just a little brief, you know, chronological review, I guess.
Yeah, let's take them through the story.
But I have like sort of like more esoteric questions and thoughts about her and like why her work resonates still to this day. But you know, she was, let's see.
She was a composer for the BBC.
I was going to go back a little bit earlier.
Right.
I think she was like one of 4 or 7 women that was accepted at Cambridge for mathematics and music. And I don't know her exact birth date, but I know that she's from Coventry. I want to see, Coventry, 1937. So there's a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but there are some interviews with her, some phone calls that have been recorded, where she talks about, growing up at Coventry was a place that was hit very hard in World War II. There was a major blitz there. She had this funny saying that she brought up in one of the things that we heard, which was she's Coventry born, bred, and blitzed, which I think speaks to, what shaped her. And if you've seen The Delian Mode, which was a mini documentary that came out, I believe, in 2014. I have this wonderful article that I found about it, so I'm going to start there because I think, for us personally...
Excuse me.
Brief moment here for coughing.
Wrong tube.
For us, we were aware of the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. We were aware of what music it influenced, sort of more in the present time, and the mystery around it. And some of the characters involved, like Delia. But it wasn't really until a little bit later, 2013, 2014, when these documentaries started coming out and all of the releases of her archived music and sort of like appreciation societies, that the information became more, I don't want to say mainstream, but just more available.
Readily available, yeah.
And the depth to which we can kind of wrap our heads around who this person was became so much easier. So there's this documentary. For us, we saw it at its premiere, which I don't even think
premiere.
We were intent. That wasn't the intent. We were at a 2-day Finders Keepers sort of event in LA, Finders Keepers Records, which we can link to as well. I'll find the historical data on the internet about that event. But it was hosted by Finders Keepers, and it was. They had brought Suzanne Ciani sort of out of
Night
obscurity.
1 was at a venue. It was more of a concert, and Andy Votel and...
wasn't Alessandro Bertini there?
Doug, he opened
That's
on the
right.
Brooklyn Music Easel well before the easel was re-released. So that was really exciting.
This was a really pivotal
Doug
couple days for us.
Shipton and Andy Votel DJ'd, and then Suzanne Ciani played a audio-visual set in conjunction with Doug Shipton and Andy Votel.
Mm-hmm. What was that trio called? They had their own little group name.
They did have their own little group name.
Can't remember right now.
I'm proud of myself for remembering the 2 gentlemen.
Yeah, good job. But night 2 was at a movie theater, and Suzanne Ciani performed this alter ego character that she has that's sort of promoting saving the environment.
Yes.
And she has all this music, and she does this
Do you
performance
remember
art.
what that was called?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. But that was really interesting.
I wasn't expecting us to go down this road, but I'll try to remember all this stuff throughout the week. And then I think because Finders Keepers was involved with this mini documentary, they gave it its LA premiere. So it's about 15 minutes, I want to say, 15, 20 minutes. And it is sort of pulling together all the pieces that are out there, the documentaries, the phone calls, the information that we have about Delia.
Yeah, we started it while we were watching dinner one night recently just to kind of brush up, and it was over before we finished our dinner, and we were like, oh wow, that's quick.
Yeah, so this article is great because it goes over, a little bit about her and as well about the documentary. And after her death, there were 267 reel-to-reel tapes and a box of 1,000 pages of music and notes. Because she, like I said, she wrote things furiously. She wrote everything down. She did mathematical equations. She drew scores, all that kind of stuff. 1,000 pages of notes. And I don't know that anyone can ever really make that all make sense.
Yeah.
But having it is such a treasure. So I'm going to post...
Yes, Mike, you
link.
do need to see this documentary. It's very good.
Yeah, so I'm going to post this article that links to the documentary just because it has such good information about the article.
There's a few that we'll link to that are pretty much, I would say, mandatory for being in this club.
And I don't know, it's just so entertaining to us as well as informative and inspiring for our music making processes. But
to me, they're sort of like the legendary tales that I can hear over and over again. They kind of remind me of, like, you know, folklore.
yeah, I never get tired of it. And it just, every time we will, you know, pull something up about her or the Radiophonic Workshop, we find something new that we're like, oh, that is so cool. I missed that the first time or something like that.
Right,
so
yeah.
Just to go back to just like a little overview of her life. She was born in Coventry, survived World War II, went to Cambridge.
Like me, Mom. My mom wasn't born in Coventry, but she did survive World War II.
She did survive the Blitz.
Was in England.
So she was born in 1937, survived the war, was one of, you know, a handful of women to be accepted into the mathematics program at Cambridge. She double majored in math and music, and when she got out of college, decided she wanted to be part of the recording industry. She wanted to be just involved in, you know, the process of making music from that side of things.
Which she knew was not going to be easy.
Oh, this is I found this little thing on Wikipedia. She approached the careers office at the university and told them she was interested in sound, music, and acoustics, to which they recommended a career in either deaf aids or depth sounding. So I don't think anybody knew what to do with her. They didn't, you know, there wasn't a place for women in these kinds of fields, and I don't think anyone could really grasp, you know, the way she thought and the way she saw the world. She applied for a position at Decca Records, and they told her they do not employ women in their recording studios. The recording studio is no place for a woman, is what I've heard her say. She was told. She took some positions at the UN in Geneva, teaching piano to the children of the British Consul General and mathematics to the children of Canadian and South American diplomats. Then she worked as an assistant.
She was like a Mary Poppins type.
In the International Telecommunications Union. And then, so after her stint at the UN, she returned to Coventry and taught at a primary school in Coventry. And, you know, she's just kind of hopping around. So this is 1960 now. She decides to go to London, and she becomes an assistant in the promotion department of music publishers, Boozy and Hawkes. And then, this is the real pivotal moment. In 1960, she joined the BBC as a trainee assistant studio manager.
Finally got in the door.
Which she was working on a magazine program where critics reviewed classical music recordings. So that's, you know, she really had a way about talking about music too that's really different. And so she heard about this mysterious radiophonic workshop program at the BBC.
While she was there.
While she was working
in a different department.
You know, in the classical music magazine department. So she asked the heads, the central program operation heads, that she wanted to work in the Radiophonic Workshop, and they said, "What are you talking about? This doesn't exist. We don't hire composers. We don't have this thing you are talking about." And 2 years later, it took her 2 years to break in. Somehow she got in. She got assigned to work in the Maida Vale studios, which is where the BBC Radiophonic Workshop was housed. And that's where she was for 11 years. And she made music and sound for almost 200 radio and television programs.
The rest is history kind of thing?
Yeah. Ooh. So here's the thing. We want to spend all week talking about her and sharing clips and sounds and ideas and research because there is so much. And we don't want to just talk at you about it all during this conversation today because we could just do it for probably 8 hours.
We found out some new tie-ins with a certain Island Records band and a band that preceded that I see the words on the page right now.
Yeah, why don't you go into some of that? So, you know, she did make music for the BBC programs, wasn't credited for them because everything was credited to the Radiophonic Workshop, right? So BBC paid you to be an employee of BBC. You did the work they asked you to do. You weren't credited as a composer. So she was never credited for anything. Never received any royalties or anything like that. But she would spend a lot of her off time doing other things.
Well, I believe David Vorhaus, who was one of the, if not the founding member of White Noise, met her after a workshop that she was delivering with, I believe, Brian Hodgson. And they had formed a little group called Unit Delta Plus. And I have looked for Unit Delta Plus recordings for years, always coming up with nothing. So if anybody knows of any of those recordings, they exist, please.
This is going to be one of our weekly assignments.
Please let me know. I'm dying to hear Unit Delta Plus. But anyway, I believe Brian Hodgson and her joined up with David Vorhaus and started making music together. And so David Vorhaus didn't work at the Radiophonic Workshop, but he would sort of sneak in.
Right, because they didn't have a studio to do this.
To the Maida Vale studios.
Sounds like people were there around the clock.
And would basically produce that project.
It was the Wild West.
With Delia, and I guess the first song that they did was Firebird.
Wait. So Firebird was made under the auspices of Unit Delta Plus.
Oh.
Is that what you're saying?
No.
Oh, I lost you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm talking about White Noise.
Oh,
David
okay.
Vorhaus.
So Unit Delta Plus, we just don't know. They say that there's music, but we can't find it.
Never been able to find it.
You switched over to White Noise. Okay.
Yeah, that David Vorhaus attended a workshop.
Right, sorry.
And then he would sneak into the Maida Vale studios, and they were, working on what became White Noise's Electric Storm.
One of,
and
I'd say, top 5 albums of all time for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to link to it.
For a lot of bands that we've
posted it quite a few times. It's pretty popular in the group, but still.
We have it on. Anyway. We have a reissue on vinyl. It's a great album.
Should I grab it?
I don't know.
No. Okay.
We need to show the physical copy to people, but we do have it. If you don't believe us, you can comment.
Last year was the 50th anniversary of the White Noise release, so I'm going to post this really cool 50th anniversary article from Sound on Sound,
which was released on Island Records, and they're known as sort of like one of the original indie labels. And I know they're most popular for having popularized reggae music, but
this is a fun little fact.
Chris Blackwell was known for finding artists in the nooks and crannies, and I believe that is definitely true with White Noise. So he saw something there. He signed them. He allowed them to put out this record, and the first song they did, I believe David said that Delia and him wrote it together. Mm-hmm. Firebird.
He did say that. This article that I found says that 2 of the tracks on White Noise were created by Delia and Brian Hodgson, working late into the night at the BBC Radiophonic Workshop studio with David Vorhaus, who has described Delia as his teacher. And Island Records took up the project and helped fund Vorhaus's Kaleidophon electronic music studio, where he continued to complete the album. So he got started probably because he needed a studio, and Delia was his mentor and teacher, so she let him in. And they wrote Firebird. He did say that she did most of the sound design.
Right. Yeah.
She didn't write the songs, but she did the sound creation.
She did the tape stuff. Mm-hmm. And he played bass, I think, on that first song. Like, that was his contribution. He's credited as the bass player of that record. And,
interesting.
But anyway, that was what she was doing on the side.
So she actually helped to set up the Kaleidophon studio as well in the late 60s.
And I can understand what she saw in David, because, he's gone on to do, some other White Noise albums that are a lot more ambient, that are cool. I don't think that Delia and Brian were involved in those. But, he's brilliant too,
Yeah.
And he's
very, different kind of mind.
People have posted, his video where he's like interviewing with the BBC, like kind of showcasing the Kaleidophon studio, and I believe the Kaleidophon was his actual instrument that he created, that he used to it was like a voltage controlled upright bass looking thing with tape as the
I'll find that video.
as the input source.
It's been posted in the group, but I'll grab it.
Like this electromagnetic
Such a
tape.
funny video.
He kind of looks like he's tripping balls.
He sure does.
On the video, like something's a little off there or on.
Or on, I love it.
But yeah,
it's a Facebook video.
It's got like a waistband.
Oh, it's so funny. It almost looks like a joke or like a parody or satire or something, but it's legit.
It's
cool.
Legit.
It's like sometimes the funniest things actually make the coolest sounds.
And I would also say that video is a big influence on how sometimes we seem like a parody of ourselves.
Yeah, some aspects of
we try to take
our vibe can come off comical, I think.
Yeah, we try to be, silly in with the serious, if you will.
Yeah, can't take yourself too seriously. So that link that I just posted is the David Borhaus Kaleidophone extravaganza. And I posted the White Noise Electric Storm Sound on Sound article. There's, again, like we said,
Mike
there's so
agrees
much.
that he seems like he's on acid, I believe.
Yeah. If you've seen this video, you know what we're talking about. It's interesting, it was talked about that her assignments for TV stuff for BBC, she obviously did work that was revered, but yes. But her work in radio, which was still a major media form at the time, have to remember that the radio was the main source of entertainment for decades. It sort of just disappeared.
Some people never transitioned to TV.
Radio dramas and
there was a whole generation of people that they were like, I
plays,
ain't watching
radio
that
plays
crazy
Yeah.
idiot box.
But she was given more freedom on the radio stuff, so she did more independent work, and she has sort of I'd say, more abstract and very kind of deeply emotional work that I've been finding from her radio compositions. There's something about the way that she can evoke the sense of mood, I guess, from what people are talking about. So if someone's telling a story or being interviewed, there's just very, very powerful.
Like that
it's
bit
subtle but powerful.
from the Delian Mode where they talk about, or was that other documentary that we listened to this morning? It all runs together where they talk.
There's a lot of the same bits in these different documentaries.
She does a soundtrack to people talking about what it's like to be getting older.
To have Alzheimer's.
And have Alzheimer's and kind of forget what they're doing.
I actually
it's kind of heavy, but
but the way she does it sort of transports you and makes you feel what they're saying. It's like she's able to
I had a deep sense of empathy.
Yeah, like the way that she can take the sound and make it mean something that matches what it's so hard to talk about. I'm sorry.
And then
I'm gonna find this Sculptress of Sound.
Whoever was being interviewed, I think it might have been Brian Hodgson actually, was saying that he believes that, she was actually having some of the people that were being interviewed repeating phrases, she would put it back in there, and it was almost like a call and response kind of a song thing.
Yeah, she had a lot of freedom. And so this documentary, it's an hour long, it's BBC sound only, funny enough. And that was one I hadn't heard before that I thought was really cool. It's an interview of, all these guys that she worked with at the Radiophonic Workshop and Mark Ayers. And they have such a personal way of talking about her, such endearment. I guess, a lot of the, I'm talking, somebody who's researched her or done the archiving or whatever, but these men who actually worked with her, who have such a fondness for her, and got to, understand her sense of humor and things like that.
And apparently you would have honestly had to have worked with her to get to know her. She wasn't social. She wasn't social. So
her work was her life.
Probably the only people that could speak, to that effect were the people that she worked in, day out. that were sort of like forced to be around her, so to speak.
Yeah, apparently she was quite unpredictable.
Moody. Would fall in and out of love with her work.
Yeah, if she was excited or she had
kind
of caught on to an idea, she would just obsessively work on it, and then some days she just like wouldn't be able to work on anything or talk to anyone.
They'd ask her about certain projects, and she'd be like, "What? I'm not even no."
I heard her describe deadlines as something that she would work really furiously on an idea, and then as she saw the deadline approaching, she would slow down, almost as though time was stopping. She couldn't handle deadlines. She couldn't handle sort of the way that the BBC would say, oh, tweak this or tweak that or change this here.
Revisions, she hated them.
She's like, why would you want me to do that? She's such an artist. She's very confident, too. Very confident in
her decisions.
In what she was doing and why she was doing it and, standing up for herself and standing behind her work.
I would love to see anybody post their favorite Delia songs. In the comments of this post, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and throughout the week, obviously.
But maybe not as individual posts, just because.
Yeah, do it like a thread. We can do a thread on the music.
Yeah.
Specifically. Now, is it true that there was a concert set up for Unit Delta Plus?
It is, and it famously didn't happen.
It didn't happen, or it was reviewed poorly?
It
didn't happen.
There's rumors that it didn't happen. If I have the story straight, that
like it was all set up and ready to go, and then they just didn't do it.
There was a vibe that apparently wasn't vibing with Delia. Like she
quit.
Like
after
it
this
might have been
concert.
that she had, but I think the rumor has it is that she never played. Like they never played. Like the concert never actually happened.
I think so. We need to research this, guys. This is something we need to dig into with the Unit Delta Plus, because I remember there was a documentary I watched with Peter Zinoviev talking about this specifically. So we need to do some crossover research. Since Unit Delta Plus is Brian Hodgson and Peter Zinoviev, who's the founder of EMS. She's obviously been, swimming in all these different streams, which, if you just know that she did the Doctor Who theme, it's not as obvious that she was doing all this other stuff. I really want to know, did this concert happen? Was it poorly reviewed? Did it not happen? Did she really quit the group after this? Did she quit making music after this? I know I thought I remembered that she either didn't like the way that they were setting up for this concert, or didn't like that she was being treated poorly, or something. There's
she
something
wasn't
there.
Vibing, and it may have not ever happened, but she definitely dissolved Unit Delta Plus after it. And I think that was right around the time that she began working with David Vorhaus. So it was kind of like...
Yeah. So 66, 67 is Unit Delta Plus, and then 68 is her David Vorhaus years. She also, did some work scoring for a production of Shakespeare. She didn't. I don't know if it was the first electronic score for a play like this.
I didn't know that.
But this is new to me, so I want to look more into this week as well. Is her electronic score for Shakespeare, and was this the first? What was it like? Is there a recording of it somewhere?
Yeah, I would love to hear that. I'd love to see that, but definitely hear it.
Yeah. So there's a lot that we already know, and then it's like as you keep digging, you're like, wait, what is true? What is real? What's the real story here? Will we ever know? And there is a archive at, I want to say, the University of Manchester. Delia Derbyshire Archive, where I believe Mark Ayres was the one to kind of scoop up all of her tapes that were left behind.
He definitely said that Brian went through them first.
That's right. He sorted out the stuff that was blank, the stuff that was just noise or feedback.
And who knows, he might have kept a few gems for himself.
The secret Delia Derbyshire tapes. The archive is... Let's find out.
And there's also, I don't know if I didn't want to steal your thunder, but there's since developed a Delia Derbyshire Day, right?
Yes, that was going to be a lead-in. Perfect timing. Which I want to say started in 2018.
And who puts that on?
That's a great question.
Oh, okay.
We need to find out more about Delia Derbyshire Day.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, here we go. I've got an article that I pulled up. So, Manchester honors the woman behind the pioneering music of Doctor Who. This is, I think maybe the first Delia Derbyshire Day, or maybe they're just promoting the one that happened this
happened
year.
Maybe like in 2014 or something?
I think much later than that.
Much later than that. Okay, yeah, I've been following it since the beginning. I know that much, and I've been very sad to never be able to attend it because I'm not in
I can't
England.
see what year this article's from. It's saying...
But
oh, yeah, you're right. 2013 was the first one.
2013.
First time she'd been celebrated.
Yeah, I remember when that rolled out.
Yeah, so they showed the dealing mode, so that was probably the premiere of the dealing mode in the UK.
Gotcha.
In 2013.
And, you know, I think...
and they did a panel discussion. They did the concert premiere of 3 specially commissioned works by the Delia Darlings. Who are the Delia Darlings? Let's find that out.
I have no idea who the Delia...
Yeah, and they had some of the archive material was there as well.
Darlings. Delia Darlings.
Yeah, they must be like cover... Well, the link is dead, so I can't click to it. But the Delia Darlings apparently were maybe a Delia cover group or something.
Whoa, that's crazy. I mean, she's like influenced people like Aphex Twin and Paul Hartnell of Orbital and all these electronic music artists. Adrian Utley, you know, from Portishead.
It seems like the release of some of her archive material that was played on the BBC, I want to say like around 2007, 2008, really shocked a lot of people in the electronic music world because they maybe knew about her and her tape music work and her work for the BBC, but didn't know like that she kept innovating to create what they're considering sort of like proto-dance music. Yeah,
they didn't understand that what some of the stuff that she was experimenting with was very similar to like modern...
People didn't believe it. They said, this is new music. This is not Delia's work.
Dance music.
You're lying. This isn't real.
Genres, yeah, like techno and house and stuff. But yeah, she's kind of unofficially maybe the pioneer of that genre.
Yeah, Manchester University has all of her stuff. So the archivist there said that when they received the tapes, they had to immediately digitize them because...
They were probably falling apart.
You know, every time you play them, they deteriorate. Mm-hmm. And
probably had to bake
in
them.
order to like listen to them over and over and kind of figure out what was there, they had to immediately digitize them and very carefully handle them. But
the oxide was probably falling off.
So I don't know if the physical
the
tapes are still like around or just the digital versions of them. But I would say, you know, the focus of her sound and her creations was using everyday objects.
Right. Found sounds, as she would call them.
Yeah, everyday objects or tone generators to then...
At their most basic level, like we're talking a sine wave, you know, just building sine waves.
And recording those sounds to tape, pitching them up, pitching them down.
Using tape speed, recording them to a second tape deck.
I was going to say.
And then cutting the pieces to time using her mathematical mind.
Yeah, she kind of developed these methods herself.
Well, that was something we talked about. I was like, who developed like the idea, like, you know, obviously when she joined, they were already using multiple tape machines and she was like at least loosely taught like, hey, we record sound to tape, we chop it up, we put it together, it makes a song. You know, who developed that? And we kind of came to the conclusion that it might have been Daphne Oram. And
the founder of the BBC Radiophonic Workshop.
The other gentleman that we didn't know his name.
Yeah, who is that guy?
We'll look it up right now because we can and we will.
We like to get things correct.
But yeah, so there's this idea, you know, I thought about, you know, her
Desmond
method.
Briscoe.
Desmond Briscoe. So it was Desmond, okay. So I'd mentioned it might have been him, but it was definitely him.
So manipulating tape and test oscillators. That was Daphne and Desmond's bread and butter.
And if you witness, there's a few of the documentaries that kind of break down some of her more popular pieces, like into the 3 parts, you know, because there was 3
that was
tape
really
machines,
cool to hear.
3 parts. And what you kind of notice is that, you know, the sounds are layered. It's almost as if she thought about sound the same way like people would think about using like Photoshop, but using tape. Like her sound design methods were always like, okay, I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to emphasize the higher frequencies using, you know, this other, you know, sound or, you know, other sound source, or I'm going to pitch up the thing, you know, in certain sections to emphasize, or I'm going to emphasize the low end on like the 1 and the 3 or whatever, you know what I mean? So she would build these sounds up, and a lot of she might only focus on, say, rhythm and melody, you know, just the 2 most simple elements of making a song, but she would sort of like layer the sounds to where it provided emphasis, you know, on certain beats, on certain notes, so it sounded a lot more full. And I just think that's a really cool concept that's oftentimes overlooked. It's like you don't need, you know, like your Brian Wilson type, like, you know.
That has its place, but that's not.
It has its place, but you don't on every song you don't need like, you know, this like, you know, 5-6 part harmony or whatever. And
she was able to do a lot with a minimal amount. Right, less is more, I would say. She knew where to place the emphasis and what to use. Like I said, she was super intentional. She pre-planned everything.
Yeah,
so
which we've heard over and over again
against the wall.
Is the way to do. You know, if there's anything I've gleaned from like some of the artists that we've, you know, done deep dives on, it's you envision what you want to happen first, and then you make it happen. It's very simple. It sounds simple. It's not all that easy, you know, to actually put into practice. But, you know, that I am 100% sure about. That is the way to go.
Yeah, I'd say. So I think we've collected quite a few questions that we have, some things we're going to be looking into more, and some of the prompts that we'll have for the week about Delia and the things that we've uncovered in this conversation. You know, a lot of these things we just discovered as we're talking together here today, and then we'll post in the group throughout the week some of the things that we want to explore more together and see what we can find out. If Delia Derbyshire is something you've never heard before, if it's completely new to you, that is so exciting. I almost wish I could go back and like rediscover it all again, you know?
I know, yeah.
So we'll be rediscovering it through your eyes and your experience of being exposed to this. If you are more knowledgeable about her, please, you know, act as a mentor in the group to the rest of us, to share what you know and what you've experienced. If you have personal connection to, you know, maybe, you know, hearing the Doctor Who theme as a child, or, you know, being exposed to her work and having some, you know, sort of nostalgic feelings about it.
Or if you've attended a Delia Derbyshire Day event, or have any experiences or pictures.
Yeah, your own personal experience with it is very valuable to our research as well.
Did we find out who puts that on?
Yeah, let's look into Delia Derbyshire Day. The other thing that I did find is that the Coventry Music Museum is now a thing that exists, and also has a permanent display of her sort of, you know, it's kind
She's
of
probably the statue
simplistic.
out front, I would say.
Apparently, like, she hadn't really been celebrated much by her hometown until recently. So I'm going to post a link to the Coventry Music Museum. Did I say that right? Music.
Well, you know,
Museum.
like,
Yeah.
everybody's got their instrument,
weird.
you know, and I would say that hers is probably either the tape machine or the lampshade, you know, like her Lucille, you know, like the guitar that B.B. King is known, you know, is a lampshade.
So, it might also be fun. I might post this later, though. I found, like, on TripAdvisor, people writing reviews about the Coventry Music Museum, and they're, like, super detailed, and it's really, really fun to read.
Oh, man. I would love to go to that next time we go to England, if we ever...
Yeah.
When we
haven't been to Coventry.
Yeah, I've never been to Coventry.
So, what were we saying?
Delia Derbyshire Day.
Delia Derbyshire. I don't know why I keep avoiding that for some reason.
Maybe
because
don't care.
No, it's because I wish I could go. I'm sad that I haven't been.
Yeah,
I also
too.
want to touch on, you know, sort of as we close here, I'd say the last chapter of her life was the synthesizer sort of infiltrating the Radiophonic Workshop.
Well, that's what made her, like, peace out.
Yeah, so that's sort of the final chapter of her.
The synthesizer came around and she was kind of like, I like creating what this thing can do with found sounds and tape, thank you very much. And now that this exists, everyone's gonna think that it can do what I'm doing with tape, but it really can't. Like, if you, like, listen in between the partials of the sound, like, you know, it's much deeper than what a synthesizer can pull off without any treatment. But it has this perception of being the same thing.
There's something
I don't think she could handle that.
She talked a lot about the handmade aspect, making everything with her own hands, and the quality that creates. I'm not sure that's the word I was going for, but the quality of the tone, the quality of the sound, and the feeling that is generated from something that is handmade versus
the imperfections
programmed or quantized.
Yeah, the imperfections provided that sort of, like, humanizer, you know, effect, you know, automatically. And
I mentioned earlier when we were talking about this, it's sort of like if the sculpture David was made from a 3D printer versus chiseled by hand.
Right.
I think would be a good comparison to, you know, what I've heard her describe her feelings about the synthesizer versus tape manipulation.
Right, and you know, honestly, like, and compared to digital, it's like even a whole different plane of existence, because, you know, we believe that when a sound is recorded to tape, it sort of takes on a magic of its own, you know, and so, like, she's actually taking the sound, recording it to tape, and then you know, actually piecing the tape together, so it's literally all handmade, all tape. You know, that's just got to sound fantastic. And I think they were working with, you know, for the tape machine nerds, I think they were working with, like, 1-inch tape. Like,
wow.
Like,
well, they had
mono 1-inch tape or something like that. So it was, like, very high fidelity.
Hi, Daryl. We're so glad that you joined us and that you love Delia and that we can get deeper on her. Very, very excited to have you in the group and joining us. And also I see Mike saying that he is excited to dig deeper with us as well this week. So it seems like we've struck on something that we're all, as you can tell, we're pretty amped about this.
Well, Tuesday we'll be improvising with our electronic instruments in the style, you know, of what we perceive, you know, of her music. You know, we won't be splicing tape that
we
day.
might involve some tape loops.
But, you know, kind of like our whole, you know, deal with the improvisation is, like, you know, we have a setup that helps us kind of emulate the tones that you hear in this type of music. We're not by any means recreating it using the same process.
No, because, to play
it's completely
something
impractical.
live, it sort of evokes the technique, it evokes the feeling and the sounds, and touches on those things in some ways, like with using delay pedals or loopers, or even like your cassette synthesizer. You know, there are certain things that kind of lean into it a little bit more, but it's more the idea of how those things were created and the style. So we'll be doing a live improvised performance inspired by Delia and her sounds, and her attitude for life, on Tuesday. And all throughout the week, we'll be posting, prompts and thoughts and questions.
Tuesday at 6?
Tuesday at 6.
Yeah.
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time, U.S.
And so we look forward to connecting with everyone more on this. We're very, very excited about this topic. This is obviously something near and dear to our hearts and our creative process. And it sounds like some of you out there feel the same. So This should be a fun week. I think I just posted to the Delia Derbyshire Day website, which has a wealth of knowledge.
So is there an organization that
started it? It looks like they do workshops, they have events.
So is it just Delia Derbyshire Day is an organization?
I think so, yeah.
Gotcha.
It is the organization.
It is the organization. I see.
And they have funding from, some
all
councils
these
and
other
things.
Organizations.
They're probably more active. I see them more on Instagram and things like that. But they have some cool stuff. There's a Delia Phonica game that they have. I'm gonna pull that up real quick.
Oh wow!
This is so cool.
There are many attempts. I know did we post that link from the BBC that kind of simulates? That? Yeah.
There's this really cool simulator that some people were having trouble using.
Because they needed some special internet technology or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It pulled up for us. I would think if you're in the UK, it would be more.
I had it pulled up. Oh, here it is. Yeah.
This is it?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is a really cool thing you can actually play with. It's interactive to sort of pretend like you're doing tape manipulation.
I'm going to try not to send this to my mom.
This will be the first episode we haven't involved your mother by accident. If you pull this off. Oh, no, I almost gravitated toward it instantly. For some reason, I love sending my mom links to the stuff that we cover in this group. It's almost subconsciously, she never bats an eye,
I want her to...
Sometimes it's pretty weird.
To check some of this stuff out.
Stuff. She's got a Delia Derbyshire spirit about her as well. I think anyone who survived the Blitz
around the same time in England that she remembers dodging.
She has shrapnel still in her arm.
Bombs. She tells this story about being put in a drawer, a dresser drawer, to avoid the bomb stuff.
And she still got the shrapnel. I didn't get that link because my message thing wasn't open.
Oh, okay.
So we'll try one more time, but if you haven't seen this in the group already, let's see who has posted.
It probably went to the wrong source or whatever.
Yeah, I have a problem with this thing. But right, I have to say hello to you first. Hold please while we have technical issues.
Or I can share it to you. There's a million ways to do this stuff.
You should have it now.
By the way, this is, in case you can't tell, this is a live show.
Yeah. We like to make it interesting by going live. All right, let me grab this and share it with you guys in the thread. Don't know why it's opening here. You are about to be amazed.
Yeah, so the thing that we're posting right now actually allows you to simulate using web audio technology. You can actually simulate the 3 tape machines playing a section of one of her pieces, and you can adjust the tape speed, and it changes the pitch and everything. So it's super nerdy, super cool. I had fun with it for about an hour. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, she is beloved. So let's give her a week of love and discovery together to honor her.
Yeah, it was hard to avoid
the honor she did not receive in her living days.
It was hard to avoid not doing the deep dive on her first in this new series.
Yeah, I kind of was treading lightly around it because I was like, I really want to get this right.
Right.
When we talk about her.
Yeah, we needed an extra week
so influential
of deep diving on resources.
Mm-hmm. So this should be a fun week.
And we still barely scratched the surface, but...
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see how deep we can get this week, guys.
Let's get deep.
And learn as much as we can and get as inspired as we can. And we're excited to see what everybody uncovers and what we learn. So if something's new to you, shout it out. Let us know.
Yeah.
It's
Love
fun.
to hear.
It's fun
anybody's
when it's new to
stories
somebody,
about discovering her, or anything Delia Derbyshire related. Definitely want to hear about it.
Any closing thoughts?
No.
I think we did it, guys. I think we officially nailed our cosmic conversation on Delia Derbyshire, and we have a lot of fun things we are going to be sharing throughout the week that I'm really excited about. So we'll see you in the group this week, and we'll see you on Tuesday for our live Delia-inspired improv performance.
And at some point, we'll probably cover everybody who was involved in the radiophonic workshop at some point during this.
Yeah, it felt right to start with Delia, though.
Yeah, because it's just a treasure trove of amazing tape artists. But as they are definitely not the only ones.
Yeah, so we'll be tying all those threads together as well, I'm sure.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned, stay cosmic, have a great week. We will be talking to you soon.